Football with friends. It's fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier on a big Wednesday. It's a hump day. So pumped to be here with you on Orange Bloods Live. Man, got a bunch to get to today, Cody. After we got off yesterday, I got on the phone and I was talking to somebody. I was interested in what was going on in spring football, specifically with us being asked on the board so much. About what is Jamie French look like Khalil Lockett, some of these new wide receivers coming in, and who would have thought I go into the conversation, kind of wanted to get updates on these guys, Dalen McCutcheon, Michael Terry, all the rest, because we look at the depth chart and you just think to yourself, okay, well, Texas was nowhere near as aggressive as they were last season as far as the wide receivers. They just weren't. And clearly the time we're going to go out and get a big player in the portal is at the beginning of the portal cycle. There's not as much left to, we've always talked about that spring portal cycle being a little bit of the dented can aisle. So what they have here, it looks like for the most part, what they're going to have moving forward. And I'm just like, so who's it going to be? Is French looking good? Khalil Lockett, all this stuff. And the person told me, he's like, well, yeah, dude, we're really excited about him. I can't wait to see how they stack up and if they can get in the mix with Wingo, Demo, and Parker. And I was like, so Parker Livingstone, and that's kind of the thing. I wanted to have a conversation about these young freshmen, and it turned out that the conversation that I had was mainly about Parker Livingstone. Do you find that at all interesting?
I find it interesting because I mean, the conversation coming out of like, now maybe bowl practices / end of season / like all these other guys going pro was like, all right, well, who's going to be the guy that steps up? Is it going to be Aaron Butler? DeAndre Moore is going to be the leader of the room. Ryan Wingo's, of course, going to take over his spot. And then this freshman class comes in and everyone just kind of forgets, I guess, about those other guys, like Dubose and Livingstone and even a little bit of Butler. There's only a little bit of people, a couple people talking about Butler. So to hear that Livingstone is going to be towards the top of the pecking order is interesting because he's a big body. We saw Sark last year talk about kind of a shift in his recruitment, not Parker Livingstone in particular, but in terms of like recruiting bigger body receivers. You think of Wingo, you think of Michael Terry, you think of Parker Livingstone. These guys are 6'2", 6'3", big, fast, athletic receivers.
6'4". But yeah, sorry, just continue. I mean, I heard yesterday that he's 6'4". So
there you go.
And you mentioned Butler, but there's just okay. So with Livingstone, I mean, if we just look at I should have probably thought about this before. Like we sit here talking about the team for an hour a night. You know what I mean? Like I should have just put 2 and 2 together before. It's like he's the only one who, and if we're not considering, I don't know if Niblett is going to, I couldn't get any real answers about whether Niblett's moving back to wide receiver or not. I get the feeling that they're kind of not even really sure right now. But if you consider him as being just sort of out of the picture, right, then, I mean, Wingo, DeAndre Moore, and Parker Livingstone are the only players on this team that have played an offensive snap for Texas. Livingstone played in 4 games last year. All right, so here are the things that I was told about him that I think people will find interesting. And I just now posted a little article up on Orange Bloods just because I felt like if it was something that I hadn't been really thinking too much about, despite the fact that I was a big fan of Livingstone's coming out of high school, it's just like the narrative's probably not there. And if he runs out for the first practice of spring ball and we're able to go out there as media and we report that the starting 3 wide receivers are, Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, and Parker Livingstone, I don't want people to feel like it came completely out of nowhere. Right. Mm-hmm. So here's what I've heard. So, all right, I guess first thing okay, there's a bunch, but first thing, he came to college first when he got to college, he was only 17 when he got to college. He's been 18 this whole year. He's still 18, right? And so they thought that there could be some development that happened with him physically, and that development has happened with his body. He went from 181 last spring to where he'll come into this. I've heard he's weighing like 197, 199 right
Oh
now.
gosh.
They're expecting him to maybe be 200, 205 time that by the time that school starts. And it hasn't affected his speed, because what was most shocking to me is that they were doing speed testing the other day. I think he said it was the flying 60, but I didn't put it in the article. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were doing it on the catapult and measuring it in miles per hour. Do you know how many miles per hour that he was clocked at?
Oh, long legged.
It's an impressive one.
I'll go 23.4.
No, it was 22.1, but it was fourth best. It was fourth best.
Fourth best on the roster.
Yeah, fourth best of everybody who was taking part in the speed test competition. So I don't know if that's the whole roster. I'm not sure, but and I'm not sure that it was the flying 60. I think it's what he said though. But 22.1. So obviously still super, super fast, right? Then you have the fact that whenever you look at last year, he was the only wide receiver besides Wingo that was a freshman that traveled to all the away games. And there was a time last season, and this was a source that was more on the kind of the Texas side of things, right? That kind of knows how some of the coaches were thinking. And he said that, I believe it was the Arkansas game, which I think was the first game that Aaron Butler traveled to last year, because he was having he got here a little late, I think, and he was having a little bit of trouble picking up the playbook at first. Of course, Freddie Dubose had the knee thing that he was been recovering from, and so he didn't get to travel around much. But I think it was in the Arkansas game or maybe one of the others, something whenever it was one where Bond might have got banged up. I forgot exactly what it was, but there was a situation where it was like, or should we put Parker in and burn his red shirt? And Chris Jackson didn't want to do it. He didn't want to burn his red shirt. And one of the reasons why was he was saying that the thing that he really loves about Livingstone is not only the fact that he's big and he's size speed, he can catch, he's practiced at both the outside wide receiver positions, but it's also that he's already considered one of the best blockers, right? And so that got into a whole other side conversation about how the frustration with Isaiah Bond last year in his his run blocking, and also why Jonte Cook, besides clearly the off-field stuff was what led to him not getting on the field very much, right? We know that, but he said as far as on-field stuff, like it was with Chris Jackson, if you can't block, you're not going to, unless you're some kind of Bond with, you're not going to really get on the field. And so there was that. He really likes his blocking, and they really like the idea of, okay, so they like the idea of Wingo and Livingstone as being like on the outsides as far as just having that physicality as far as run blockers. I know that's something that we don't think about. We think about these guys as field stretching, size speed dudes, but coaches and stuff, they think about these dudes. They're like, man, we want a physical presence in the run block game. We don't want nickel corners and safeties coming down and blasting our guys on these screens when the running backs go on orbits and stuff like that. Like we need guys who can, who can stalk. And so that was something that they were impressed with him. There's also there's also just the fact that, they said it's going to be Arch Manning's first year. And this dude, he's had the connection with him in practice all season long. He's had the experience with them. They're like good friends and they're roommates. So they're always probably talking about football together and things like that. If last year, one of the things they really like about Wingo is that Wingo, they love Wingo as a blocker too, right? Like I mentioned earlier, they love the idea of Wingo on one side, um, Livingstone on the other side, but they also love DeAndre Moore as a blocker. And we know from what we've, I don't know if this is something that we heard from somebody else or whether it's just something that Sark has said or what it is, but it's generally known that they say that DeAndre Moore just tries to do everything like he just wants to be like Jay Witt, right? He wants to be like Jay Witt, and if you want to be like Jay Witt, you're gonna have to get out there and block your what off, right?
Well,
And
they said that they put him in. They said they instructed him last year to be in Jordan Whittington's back pocket.
that was what it was.
That's what they told us.
Yeah. So last year, what this dude was saying was that they had a personnel package that he said it was a blocking package. I'm sure that they have a name for it. It's like a run block package of the wide receivers, right? And that was Ryan Wingo. It was DeAndre Moore, and guess who the other one was? It's the last one you'll guess.
Probably Silas
Bolden. Yeah, it's like these like he said Silas is a dog who'll get after it a lot more than Bond or Golden. But he said in that particular package, if it wasn't Silas, it would have definitely been Livingstone going in there and taking that role. So with the speed, with the size, with the way that he's developed, the fact that he's going to be 19 through this whole next season, the fact that Texas didn't sign a wide receiver in that first transfer portal window, the fact that Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden now gone. Look, I know that Jamie French, Khalil Lockett, Dalen McCutcheon, Michael Terry, those are unbelievably exciting players, and I'm excited about them. And I wanted to call around and get information about them that was going to excite people. And the fact of the matter is, my eyes were open to the fact that there's a lot going on for Parker Livingstone. There's a lot of buy-in that he has with the staff, and it feels like a situation to me where it's kind of like these guys are going to have to go in, and look, it would be idiotic to say that one or multiple of these guys aren't going to be able to come in and have an impact immediately. They're going to have to, even if Livingstone does play a lot, which I'm starting to kind of think that he will. But they're going to have to come in and show that they're going to be in the mix with these guys. We didn't see much out of Parker Livingstone this year, but the staff, I just rattled off a whole lot of information about the guy that I just had no idea about. This guy just had at his fingertips, and all I want to know is how big Khalil Lockett's hands are. And he's like, "Well, did you know that Parker ran 22 miles per hour? Did you do you know what I mean?" So it's just.
So what happens when you go digging for digging for one thing and you find out about another. That's the art of.
Yeah, it's like I want to know about Khalil Lockett's pizza pie hands. I get the stuff about Parker Livingstone, and it's I didn't know that you were going to throw up the beef jerky stuff, but I'm certainly happy to talk about it. I think that there's probably a link down in the YouTube description below. But you click there, get some beef jerky. It's delicious. It is cut right from the sirloin. That's Cody and I's beef jerky, right? You get it from Texas Beef Traders. It's Darren that sends it to you and stuff like that. So if there are any delays in getting it to you, don't complain to us. You can call up there and ask Darren what's going on, and he will let you know. But he's usually quick about getting out the orders. We have 4 different flavors. We have the jalapeno garlic, the cowboy blend, which is just the old school kind of Texas cracked pepper, salt. There's also the hot honey barbecue, which is not hot at all, or the hot honey. What's that called? The smoked hot honey, which is not very hot at all. It's just kind of teriyaki flavor. Then the smoked garlic, which is just a kind of garlicky one. My favorite is the hot honey. It's my, I think it's my son's favorite. I think Cody, you haven't had it yet, but I think it'll be your favorite whenever I bring some to the combine. You guys should check it out, man. It's all antibiotic free, vaccine free. It's got no shots in it, no steroids, it's all non-GMO feed. It's the same sirloin. It's like you're buying a sirloin steak from Texas Beef Traders that's just been dried up and jerkied. It's delicious. Cody, that's what Cody and I wanted. It's thick cut. It's done exactly how we want our beef jerky. Football with Friends beef jerky from Texas Beef Traders. Scan that QR code or find the link in the description below. And also, just while we're talking about Texas, just the store who's helping us with this is our great sponsor, Texas Beef Traders. Right there in Lakeway off of Loman's Crossing, you get 10% off when you let them know that you heard about them here on Orange Bloods Live. Just go. Let me give you a challenge. Just for somebody out there, it can be you watching either live or who's watching on Thursday, Friday, whenever. That's when most of you watch. Just if you're going through Lakeway or anywhere near there and you got it the afternoon, just stop by Texas Beef Traders and just say, yo, Darren, Alex told me just to come in and like show me the place. Give me the Texas Beef Traders experience. Don't feel bashful about doing it. I'm telling you, just go do that, okay? Just go do it and thank me later. All right. And if you can't get into the store and you live in the Austin area, call up there, get your 10% off, tell Darren what you want. He'll just bring it to your house. It's totally free delivery. I don't know how long that'll last because a lot of you have taken him up on it. And some of you who live in Georgetown, I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be doing it, but he's still doing it for now. So Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com.
Alex, I got a question, and I didn't put it as a topic of the day. It's just a question that I've wanted to ask you for a week now. I made some picanha steaks from Texas Beef Traders last week, and I figured it out how I like it. I seared it on the Blackstone, some oil, finished it off with some rye, and then I lit it, and it got a crisp to it. What's your go-to for cooking a picanha steak? Because right now I have one that's in my refrigerator. I got two of them actually in my refrigerator marinating for 3 days now.
Oh, are you cooking them after the show?
Either after the show or for breakfast. My wife's working overnight, so it's just I'm solo dolo with the dog. I'm either going to do it tonight or in the morning.
I don't know how you can eat these steaks for for me. It's like too good of food to eat for breakfast, man.
Oh, but breakfast is the most important meal of the day, man. You got to you get them runny egg, you get a nice steak. Oh, it's hard to beat. But anyway, what's your go-to? Like, you just boomer boxing it, or do you is there?
Well, they don't know what you call a Weber Kettle Grill a boomer box, but yeah, dude, I boomer box it. Well, see, with the picanha steaks, and this is just like, we're not Texas Beef Traders is a great place to get them, but I think you could probably get those in your local butcher shop if you have one around. But it's like an Argentinian cut, and they have this big kind of fat thing around the side, sort of. And what they tell you is like, not cut that off, just eat it with that on there, right? Just eat the fat too. I sometimes cut a little bit of it off, but yeah, like what I do with that is I use those B&B charcoals. Like I don't use the charcoal briquettes. Yeah. So that's how they look. I don't use the briquettes. I use like the natural kind of lump charcoal, which gets a little bit hotter. But then out here, I have probably thousands of live oaks here on the property. So I'll just go around and find some live oak pieces that are, probably, not, small enough to where you don't need a chainsaw to cut them, but big enough to where they're not like twigs. And I take those and I just get a giant, like I get the fire just blasting. I think you really need to char it because when that fat drips off the side of it, it blasts the fire up onto it. I think when you get a good sear, it really helps with that fat. To me, it's like I don't have any special thing. I always make sure that the temperature is really hot with those, though.
It's a kind of a sear then. That kind of makes sense on the liver. It's interesting that I never thought of this. I literally got my Weber 3 months ago, so I've never thought about putting wood in the kettle with charcoal.
Let me ask you about this. So, anything else about the wide receivers? Do you have any takes? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I'm very interested to see what happens. The Michael Terry thing maybe is the most interesting. I think we know what Lockett is. We know what French is. I'd like to see how they kind of fit in. My feel for McCutcheon has been that he's more of like a sit behind DeAndre Moore, do a similar path to what DeAndre Moore did behind Whittington. He sits behind Moore for either probably a year or 2 years. But Michael Terry feels like the wild card. It feels like the Butler, Dubose, Niblett things maybe fading away a little bit. We'll see, of course, with those guys being healthy, and we'll see what they do with Niblett. But I think Michael Terry is maybe the biggest Biggest question I have entering spring ball at the receiver position, now that we kind of have a little bit of clarity for Livingstone.
I'm not sure that the Butler thing is like fading away. It's it just feels
Well, he
I
got
he got off
flagged
to a
from
little bit
Western State
he got off
away.
to a little bit of a slower start to where it doesn't feel like the staff behind the scenes, um, it feels like to me like, it just doesn't feel like to me like, look, all these guys have a ton to prove, right? They're all unproven to, like, but it feels like Livingstone has kind of put in the work. He's like compounded interest through this whole time. He's still super young. He's totally healthy. Um, it, Butler, Butler apparently, I mean, he got here later than the other guys, right? Didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like so he's just like just a little bit behind in the playbook and stuff like that. He'd be like he moved down here from like Northern California and stuff. Like it was a or was that where he was
He's
from?
California. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. It feels like a different vibe with him. So it's like maybe he doesn't have quite the same amount of equity built up through the course of the season. But it's like I don't. I think. I mean, he's gonna have to be in the mix too. I think he looks good. I, I think it's interesting. Look, the point is these freshmen, even though they're good and they got paid an amount of money commensurate to what they would have had to go out and pay this $900K to Isaiah Bond, right? That's the same kind of thing that they're probably paying these freshmen, you know. And so they're kind of, I think, with these dudes, they feel
Wait,
maybe.
you think they're playing all? You're saying okay, never mind. I took the word freshman different. I took it as the Livingstone Butler guys.
No, I'm
You were
talking
talking
about
about
the
French and
fringe.
Lockett. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, to be clear, I don't know if they're making 900K, 500K, 7. Like, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Bond was making 900, or that was his deal. But regardless, the fact that they didn't go out and do that, I think it makes you feel like, okay, the freshman wide receiver that they have from 2025, they feel, you know, they feel more strongly about them as prospects than they probably felt about the guys the 2020, like in Livingstone's class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming in. But since that time, I feel like Livingstone has shown the staff more than I can confidently say that Livingstone's shown the staff more than Butler has to this point, if that makes sense.
It's fair.
But Butler's still, it's like good, like I wouldn't write the guy off at all. So did you read the Athletic article about Michael Lombardi and UNC and how they're calling themselves the 33rd team now and stuff like this?
I did not read the column because it came out a couple hours ago, but I did hear I heard a press conference with Lombardi explaining that he views the team as the 33rd team and that kind of how they're going to kind of unravel everything. And I think that's probably a vibe of what the article came from, but yeah.
The so my I tell me how you think this is going to work with their NIL stuff, right? Okay, so here's what the article says. All right, so this is from the Athletic. Credit to the Athletic and the cockamamie NYT here. Of course, modern player acquisition doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires NIL resources and therefore the management of those resources. How North Carolina, one of the most prestigious men's basketball schools in the country, handles revenue sharing between basketball and football will be fascinating to monitor. Having operated within the construct of the NFL salary cap for decades, Lombardi is comfortable implementing an NIL payment structure based on a player's on-field worth rather than rogue figures that have dominated headlines since the onset of NIL. And here's his quote. If you're a starter on the team, there's going to be a certain value placed on what level of starter you are, Lombardi said. You can't just arbitrarily say, I like this guy, I like that guy. We're not picking fruit here. You have to have a grading system. And so the grade reflects what you pay. So the reason I find it interesting is that I have unique knowledge about Michael Lombardi. He's one of my favorite football thinkers in the world. That's why Cody and I always talk about him. We love Lombardi. Read his books, understand his grading system, have a ton of respect for the grading system that he came up with Bill Belichick when they were in Cleveland and that they continue to use in New England. Michael Lombardi understands this, because I think he's probably the only guy in the world, at least that I know. We're talking about a guy that worked directly under Bill Walsh, Al Davis, Nick Saban, and Bill Belichick. So he understands the principles of what you need to do to run an organization.
Yeah.
And to me, so I know he has his blue tier players, his red tier players. He has the grades that are cross positional, to where you can grade guys even. It doesn't have to. You can have a cross positional board and a player by player board positionally within the same matrix within his system, and it's all things. It was say what you will about how the Patriots drafted and stuff like that, but being a GM is a whole lot more than just the drafts, right? It's also just understanding your own team, understanding what's going to help you win, understanding what your pro scouting department, like how they handle stuff. He's saying he's looking at all this stuff in the same way as it was in the NFL. And he's going to say, he's like, all right, we have this dude who's our defensive tackle. He's our 3 technique. And that's that's going to give him a multiplier because that's a position of extreme value. Lombardi's going to put value on the 3 tech, on the edge rusher, on the offensive tackle, on the cornerback, and on the quarterback, and maybe a little bit of an elevation on the wide receiver. And then the guys he's gonna kind of take down a tick as far as their value are going to be the running backs, the inside linebackers, the safeties, the interior offensive line, right? And so if we think about that, how is he going to explain that to a 17-year-old when the other guy's just saying, come here and you get $2 million? What's Lombardi telling you? He's saying that you play inside linebacker and that could be a decreased value. And what are they giving you in the first year? It's like, well, I don't know. I got it's going to be based on the amount of time I'm on the field, and it's a pro, but it's like a pro. It's based on a pro system. He's like, based on a pro what? It's like I'm here to tell you, like I'm giving you $900K the first year. The first $450K is going to hit your bank account on Thursday, and we're going to get you the next $450 by July 15th.
We do have to part of a little bit of the phrasing used in there. We just have to remember that it's illegal to pay based on performance. So they can't do that. What they can do, and the way you explained it, was that they can say if you're the starter, blank, but that's a pre-planned thing, right? I don't think that, and I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of gray area, but I'm not sure you can come in here. You go sit down in Toby Johnson's house and you go, hey, Toby, if you come to North Carolina and you start year 1 at inside linebacker, there's going to be a $400,000, salary for you. But if you don't make the first team, you're probably going to make 150. I don't know if that's legal.
Is any of it illegal though right now?
But that's the one thing that we have known, that you can't pay based on performance. And I think that phrasing may count as performance, because if you're signing a contract,
well, the phrasing is, if you're a starter on the team, there's going to be a certain value placed on what level of starter you are. You can't just arbitrarily say, I like this guy, I like that guy. We're not picking fruit here. You have to have a grading system.
Correct.
So the grade reflects what you pay. Oh, so you're saying it's the grade they have on his projection, but not the grade.
So it's exactly. So he's not going to be saying, hey, Toby, come play middle linebacker. If you start, you're getting 500. If you don't, you're getting 150. I think that the math here is that his grading system, if he gives him like a 6.8, that's a starter in his grading system. And so he's going to get that money. And if he's a 6.1 and he comes in and plays, he's going to be getting this 100,000, not 500,000, right? And then at the end of the year, that's when you see like the Dylan Stewart and the Lenora Snellers like restructure. I'm coming back. Okay, I'm coming back.
Because you're saying that because the new grade will
It's not a new
be
grade. It's more of
will
like
be based on, well, but not the updated grade will say like, all right, well, now we've got to, we're having our exit meetings with you. Here's what we saw. Here's what we liked. Here's what we didn't. And based on what we saw, now we have a whole new projection on an actual college football field of you, and what we predicted for this level before. Like we're gonna give you a bump up. Like we're expecting you to be at this level of starter now.
yeah.
And so moving forward, your new projection is at this higher level, and the meetings that go south, right,
The
are the
pro-
meetings where they say like, "Hey, buddy," it's like, "Yeah, hey,
well,
we know we said, we know we said, oh, that game versus Tulane's pretty rough. We're gonna, we think you're a little bit lower level. That's just the time to head to the transfer portal meeting, right?
that's the thing is like it's not I the exit meeting thing. I'm not sure is viewed the same way. Like, no, I think it is, but also like the player, I feel like has much more control than you saying like Toby. We paid him 100,000. He came in, had he was all ACC. All right, he's not $100,000 player anymore. He comes in and talks to Lambo. Lambo goes, you exceeded expectation. We view you differently. We view you as a $550,000 player now. And that guy goes, 550? I'm the best linebacker in the conference. Walks out the door. He can do that, or he can say, I don't want 550. I want 800. Like, that's the sticky thing with not having a cap, not having,
They're gonna, but they're gonna have a cap starting on the right. Isn't that starting on like July 1st? Is when it's supposed to kick in with the house settlement, the revenue sharing, and all that?
I'm saying like a positional cap.
They're probably gonna. If they're saying they're saying we're the 31st team and we're running our operations the exact same way you do at the NFL level, he's gonna have a positional cap.
I'm not talking about the team. I'm talking about the sport.
Oh, well, right. But I'm talking about is how do you operate within this sport if that's the way that you're handling your team.
That's what I'm talking through. I'm saying like you may view Toby as a 6'1". He comes in, he's an underrated prospect. You give him 100,000, he outperforms. He wins all ACC. He comes in your office. You go, hey Toby, you outperformed. It's time to get $600,000. He goes, Lambo, I want 900. You go, well, that's not how we work here. Is that how that conversation goes? That's not how we're doing this. You're getting 600,000, or you can take a hike, and then that's how this happens. This is the exact conversation we're having. Is he views himself as a 33rd team? He has a cap he's working under. He views these guys a certain way. What happens when the kid gets up and walks out, and he knows he can leave North Carolina, he can go to Miami and get 900,000?
I don't know. I'm not sure it works.
It doesn't. It doesn't work in that stance. I get exactly what Lombardi's doing. I get the thought behind it from the NFL perspective. I get it all. The problem is his structure is his structure. Just because Lombardi and Belichick are building the structure that may end up being what is the college football landscape in 5 or 6 years doesn't mean it's going to work from that perspective in 26 and 27 or 25, 26 and 27, right? He's going to try and force it. I think we're going to get a great view of how it works. There's going to be guys enter the portal. They're going to get guys for value. They're going to find some dude from, I think they got an offensive lineman from Holy Cross. He might come in there and win all conference. Who knows, right? And I think you'll hear stories like what I'm trying to explain, like with Toby Johnson. Toby's a fake name, obviously. But he comes in there and Lombardi has his structure, like in the NFL, right? You go in there and you think you're worth X and they think you're not, and it doesn't fit under the cap. So what do? They see ya. And this is the conversation we had this fall, which is like, can you cut a player like that? Like, obviously you can cut a player from a roster because of conduct detrimental and stuff like that. But
yeah.
What if there's no contract there? What if there's, the guy's just a free agent? There's so much because there's no structure and they're trying to implement structure and we've heard a lot. There's so many things that have come out and they're still, I have a bunch of notes that I needed to get. I never got through them this weekend. I was going to post them on Orange Bloods. I was reading and talking to and watching some things this weekend, but about the whole salary cap thing and hypothetical CBA and employment and all this stuff surrounding everything that's going to happen this summer with.
Are they talking about a CBA?
Well, they're basically saying, like, I have it on my notebook over there, otherwise I'd go get it. But basically that, like, everything that they're pushing to have happen this summer with the cap and, like, on April 7th, everything getting kind of pushed through is fine for now, but it's not the long-term answer, because the end all be all, according to a couple of people, is essentially in player employment, which creates a CBA. It allows you to create a CBA. And that's one of, like, the obvious ways to kind of bring everything together and bridge the gap.
So would they be W-2 employees, or would they be 1099?
I don't know.
I just don't.
That's kind of one of the things that was brought up. I was listening to a lawyer talk about it, that knows all this stuff. And I'm not a lawyer, nor do I know that lingo, but he was talking about it, basically saying, like, what they're working on right now and everything that's been approved, there's still a lot that's going to be argued, fought against in court. And really the end all be all, like, what they're working towards right now is good to get them to the next phase, like get you to the next year and keep building this thing and keep growing. But the end answer to really solve things is likely going to end up being player employment, at least having a handful of players employed, so that there's a player union of sorts.
I mean, to me, I just, whenever I think about that, then I think about so it's like what Lombardi's trying to do right now is he's trying to put. Gosh, I hope it doesn't go bad for him. I wanted to be successful. I'd like to see UNC be successful with this, but it feels like what he's trying to do right now is put structures in place within his own program, wherein there's a real nebulous structure around him within which he's trying to operate inside. It's like
he's putting restraints on himself that nobody else has.
Right. It's like he's trying to. It's like, I forget which Bible verse it is. I think it's something in Matthew where God says it's the wise man who builds his house on rock, and it's the foolish man who builds his house on sand, right? And it's almost like Lombardi's trying to build this big rock house on, like, sand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like it's like it's all put together. It's like everything's good with it. It feels like it's got a good foundation, and the bones are good. And it's like we have our pay structure, and, like, you come in, it's just like the NFL. It's all that, like, and it's buttoned up. It's good, but it's built on sand. It's just going to wash away, right? To where it would be like what the wise man would do would be wait till you have the rock to where you could build it on. And it feels like that rock is not going to be how long until you could build your house on rock, as far as this all goes. Is it 2028? I mean, it feels like right now you got to live on a little cabana on the sand and just deal with stuff when it comes in.
Here's the funny part, Alex, and I only think of this because of the way you're explaining this. And it's almost like genius in how they're doing it, right? The way you explain it maybe sounds like they're idiots, but they're kind of thinking past or to the future. But here's the problem in that building that rock structure on sand, they could be building the rock structure on rock that nobody's found yet, right? And, like, they're just so far ahead of everybody. But the problem is this isn't Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, where the guy's going to be there for the next 40 years. This is a 65-year-old Lombardi and a 72-year-old Bill Belichick that are not galaxy braining, but, like, formatting a plan that is like 5 years early.
Is it 5? It feels more like 2 or 3 early to me.
But, well, I hope it is. Hope it is. But I mean, how long is it taking us to get to where we're at right now? 3 years? to get to a cap now?
God, it's been a while. It's been a Wild West, hadn't it, dude? I don't even know how long it's
It's
been.
absolutely what it is, Alex. Is it's absolutely the definition of cockamamie, and how much money the NFL makes, and how much money the NCAA makes, and the fact that this stuff takes so long. And I feel like you could just have a conversation where the NCAA and or you just have the conferences come together. They have their commissioners. They go to Park Avenue. They talk to the NFL, and they just figure out how the hell we get this thing right. And it almost sounds like it's like, well, this is too easy. Just figure out how to make this thing right, and how to, how can we make students employments? Well, employees. Well, gee, you go around to every campus around the country, and there's students that are employed by the school, or there just is, right? So it's like there's got to
Yeah,
be,
they work at the food court, and they give you your Chick-fil-A.
or they work in labs, and
Yeah.
they teach, right? It's like there's so many different things that maybe it's going over my head, but I just feel like there's ways that they can work through this that it's taken what 3-4 years to get to where we're at right now. So I don't know if it's going to take 2 years or 3 years or 4 years to get to where you actually feel like you're in a place similar to the NFL, not striving to be like, yeah, man, well, we're going to get a salary cap in April or July or whatever it is, and then we're still not going to be close because the cap is a random number. You have to share it between schools and or between teams at the school. All this, like you have Title IX stuff. You have all this stuff, and Belichick and Lombardi, I think, are on the right track. But the thing is, I think it may not work because of the age of those guys. It may be a thing where if it was Eric DeCosta and Kenny Dillingham, this hypothetical, right? Eric DeCosta, the GM for the Baltimore Ravens, who I think is like in his low 50s. And that guy's got 20 years left, hypothetically. And you got Kenny Dillingham, who's going to coach for the next 30. If you had that combo and they had this strategy,
And just stick with it. Trust the process. There could be some growing pains, but
bingo. You're going to be the guy in the front of the ship holding the flag.
Yeah, but dude, I think right now though, I think that the way that Texas is doing it, and look, I think the best way to handle this stuff right now, before there's anybody coming in and telling you what you can and what you can't do, and what you have to do, and what you have, I think any restraint that you put on yourself it's going to be hard, man. It's going to be hard for those guys. I think the way that you have to do it is you got to just roll with you got to roll with what comes right now and see about getting guys and what's going to take to get this guy. And do I want him? And all these, the grading and stuff like that. You can do it. It's good. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, there's got to be some kind of leeway here for me to get the guys that I want, the guys that I need, the guys that we need to build this roster the way that we want to. And if there's no flexibility for that, you're just kind of hamstringing yourself. All right. You'll never hamstring yourself if you buy your clothes at Poncho Outdoors. I noticed Cody and I both wearing poncho gear today. The little poncho logo, a little bit more pronounced on that. Is that a sky blue hoodie or a slate blue hoodie, Cody? I'm not sure what
we'll call it baby blue for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, mine is I think mine is sage green. I'm not sure if you could tell. These lights kind of wash me out a little bit, but it's a nice green color. These hoodies are addictive, man. They're made, and they're actually made from recycled trash. I think they take trash out of this is what Poncho does, dude. They're not going around saying that they're not making any political statements about anything like that, but they want clean places to hunt and fish and stuff. And they take like plastic bottles out of the ocean and they make these awesome shirts out of them. It's just, how could you not support something like that? And how do they make a plastic bottle feel this smooth? These are the best hoodies ever, man. Make sure and go check out Poncho Outdoors. You guys are gonna love them. And look, I always say that they don't run sales, and they don't. They don't need to. It's more likely that they're going to be out of something that they'll run a sale. But I did think about this the other day. I was making an order, and it was like 2 or 3 shirts that I ordered. And Cody, I forgot that if you make an order and you buy like 2 shirts, they give you all kinds of free stuff. They give you free T-shirts and hats and key rings and stuff. Like if you buy 3 shirts, you get like 3 or 4 of these like shirts and stuff. So it's like no promo codes, no sales, no nothing. But like every time you order, you're gonna get some free Poncho stuff. It's all really good quality. So check out Poncho Outdoors. And thanks so much to them for being such a great sponsor here on Orange Bloods Live and Football with Friends. And I think we're gonna have the Outsiders a little bit later, and those dudes are always decked out in their Poncho gear too. So thanks so much to Poncho. While we're talking about our sponsors, of course, we'll talk about a place that I was at just earlier today, and I did notice their big wine sale that they had going on. Unfortunately, my wine guy there with the great suggestions was not there, so I just got some tequila. I'll be back for this wine sale. Thanks so much to Specs.
With hundreds of wines on sale, Specs is turning these aisles into the ultimate love story.
Uncork something special during Specs' huge wine sale, going on now. Specs, the fun starts.
All right, Football with Friends. It is indeed fun as hell. So happy to have you guys today, clicking up towards over 600 of you watching between X and YouTube. So thanks to all of you guys for watching live, and thanks to everybody for tuning in the morning after, as most of you say that you do. So we certainly appreciate you. If you guys are tuning in the next day or the day after, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. But if you want to interact with the show the same way that the chat does, you can email us, fwfemails@gmail.com. Suggestions for the show, topic ideas. It's the off season. We're certainly open to ideas for your topics. If there's something that you want to talk about, let us know. Kind of like GC Longhorn in the chat saying, thoughts on the Ohio State hire of Matt Patricia. Curious as to how Texas is yet to hire Gideon's replacement, while OSU's managed to make decisions on both offensive and defensive coordinators. Well, I look. It wasn't like that thing was on turbo speed. I think if that Matt Patricia defensive coordinator hire, if Texas would have taken that long with the coordinator hire, I think the fans would be like, man, this is taking too long.
Mm-hmm.
When did Gideon announce he was leaving? Like has it been a week?
Well, I
was
think
it last Wednesday?
Yeah. I think the thing with the Gideon thing is that there was a report last week that it was going to be done by Monday, and then now it's pushed to next weekend. So I think that there was an artificial maybe barrier made for fans to expect.
What do you think about Matt Patricia? If I were an Ohio State fan, I'm not sure I'd be too fired up about it.
Well, I think it's
and what kind of what I don't understand about Matt Patricia's whole plight is, okay, so thought of as wasn't he a rocket scientist?
What?
Am I totally wrong about that? Matt Patricia, rocket scientist. Let me just make sure that this is right. So, yeah.
Oh.
So Matt Patricia, so he's referred to as a rocket scientist due to his background in aeronautical engineering. He graduated from Rensselaer Polytechnical Institute in 1996 with a degree in mechanical aerospace and nuclear engineering. But yeah, so he did go on to have a career in football. So so I think that Patricia, at least, I mean, he's super smart. And we saw that he was this like wonderkin whenever he was the defensive coordinator through most of the Patriots, or through the mid to the latter part of the Patriots dynasty. And then he goes and gets the head job in Detroit, where he flames out spectacularly, completely loses the locker room. People hated that stupid pencil behind his ear. They did. They said, like, this guy's such a fake. It's like they hate Dennis. They hate DA. They hate Dennis Allen's Sharpie that he wears on his visor. I hate it.
He just stinks.
Who hired him? Is he the Bears defensive coordinator now? I think Ben Johnson hired DA.
Yeah,
which I think would be good. I think that's fine. But
I think this is a good hire.
But then he goes back, and they take him back on in New England. But when they hired him in New England, was he like offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's obviously smart and knows that's a terrible hire. I think it was him and Joe Judge maybe tag teaming that or something for a year. They had the special teams coach move. I don't even remember. So that's all to say that I have a bunch of just really bad recency bias about Matt Patricia and have a hard time thinking back to when he was this like boy wonder defensive coach. I don't know what to make of it, man. I don't. You like it?
I think it's fine. I don't think it's bad. It's the defensive side that I was like wondering what side they hired him on, because I just remember when the Patriots took him as the OC, it was like, what in the hell?
It didn't work.
Here, and it was a bad ordeal. GC Horn said he was operating under the assumption that Texas knew he was leaving, and Gideon being the he.
Well, they would have known for
Onwell reported that he didn't, that Sark didn't know until the day of.
Well, so he didn't know he took the interview?
Or the weekend of, or the day of, whatever it was. He said that, I mean, Onwell reported that Sark let the coaching staff have the week off or the weekend off or whatever it was, and that they were just
so he didn't have to ask for permission to interview because he was already off.
Yeah.
He just figured I'll just take a trip out. Where's Georgia Tech located? That's in Atlanta, right?
Atlanta, yeah.
Georgia. Is Blake Gideon going to a spot where he's going? They're gonna. Is their quarterback coming back? Haynes King?
I don't. Maybe.
I haven't heard any draft stuff about him. He's not on our draft lists.
Yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior, so he's got a year left. Yeah,
dude. I mean, Georgia Tech's actually kind of good. Who's to say they can't be, relatively competitive? He's going to a good spot. So it was easy for him to get into Atlanta and back without letting Sark know. That's wild. So, but maybe he did. Yeah. So I'm not sure that he did know that far in advance. I don't think that this search is dragging out any far. I don't think that you guys need to worry about this search dragging out.
I mean, I think Onwell reported this week it'll be done he's expecting it to be done by this weekend. So I think that's just mighty fine.
Let me let's just talk about this from Stuart Mandel and the another athletic thing.
All right, so Stuart Mandel had a mailbag today, and his one mailbag question at the top kind of caught my eye. He was asked, in college basketball, there are teams that expect to advance deep into the NCAA tournament. Others are simply happy to make it at all. If you had to put college football teams into similar tiers based on expanded playoff, who would fill each category? And he tiered these teams out. Tier 1 expects to compete for national titles and isn't going to celebrate anything. Tier 2 expects to make the CFP on a near yearly basis and considers a deep run to be successful. Tier 3 will just say makes the CFP every 5-ish years and considers it a success to win a game or two. There's 2 more tiers past that. You can kind of expect or project how those are explained. Tier 1, Alex, I guess my question, I'll just ask you this first. Texas is not in Tier 1. Tier 1 is Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama. Has Alabama caught your eye? Caught my eye. Did Alabama catch your eye being the 3rd team in that group? I feel like it should have been 2.
Well, how long has this been for Georgia? I mean, maybe I guess it's been 7-8 years that they've kind of been like that. That's long enough. So they belong.
Georgia, I expect to be there.
Ohio State, you expect to be there. I think Alabama, you expect. Yes, dude. Alabama fans, if you're not winning a national championship, they're on tilt.
Well, that's fine, but I think, they just
that's the expectation. Go win the
9-4 football team. They just came off a 9-4 season.
Right, but I mean, it's the first season without Saban, and I think I think the fan base hasn't totally. Maybe they'll never adjust their expectations. They shouldn't. They should be hoping for Kalen DeBoer to come in and create something similar. That's gonna be hard. That's why it's gonna be a hard job to take.
All right, tier 2.
You know what I mean?
Tier 2 comprises of 12 teams,
and this is where it's bad.
This is
the Texas. There should be a tier 1. There should be a tier 1B.
Yeah, you could argue that Bama and Texas should maybe be in that I would say Bama deserves to be in the same tier as Texas. Tier 2 expects to make the CFP on a near yearly basis and considers a deep run to be successful. All right, brace yourselves. LSU, Texas, Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Florida, USC, Clemson, Florida State, Miami.
Yeah, so tier 1, I think here should be right now, Ohio State and Georgia. Then tier 2 should be tier 1. So tier 1 is expects to compete for national titles and isn't going to celebrate anything less. I think tier 2 should be expects to at least make the CFP semifinals. Anything else is a disappointment. So anything besides a deep run is a disappointment. Whereas tier 2 is expects to make the CFP on a near yearly basis and considers a deep run to be a success. Tier 1A should be expects to make the CFP on a yearly basis, and a success at minimum is the semis. And that tier is Texas, Michigan,
Notre Dame,
Oregon,
Notre Dame,
and can I say maybe LSU?
I don't know. Maybe.
It's been a tiny minute for those guys. But I just don't see how Oklahoma, Florida State right now. Clemson feels like they just got in by the skin of their teeth, man. They really had to go toe to toe with.
A couple feel like they're blue blood bump ups, right? USC feels like a blue blood bump up. Miami, Florida State, Florida, even Clemson to a certain extent. Those feel like you look at the last 20 years and they're just getting a little. Miami hasn't done anything. Like, this is their first good year in 15 years.
Well, look, I think our chat right here on the side is saying that David Keith Williams is saying his wife doesn't know college football and she can make a better list. I think the chat maybe could make a better one too. That's not a good list by Stuart Mandel, but certainly a lot of respect for him for the work that he does. Now, you can email us, fwfemails@gmail.com. You can find us on X at Cody Carpentier, at Alex Dunlap NFL. You can find us at FWF_OB for our show account. Thanks so much for being here. We're here every night from 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time. Please like the show. Please subscribe to the channel. We try not to waste your time. We like to get in, get out, talk football. It's what we're here to do. We can't thank you guys enough for helping us to grow the show, even here through the off season. Because, dude, here's the thing: it's still fun as hell to talk about football. Look, man, we got an hour. We've run out of time. We could do this for hours and hours on end. But the analytics tell us that if we do that not as many people will tune in. So that's why we can't always get to it. Do you know what else the analytics say? We are good at advertising. If you'd like to advertise with us, man, please call Sonny Nelson, 512-924-4038, or you can email her, sonnynelson@orangebloods.com. All right. We can't thank you guys enough for being here. Thanks so much to our sponsors, myperfectfranchise.net, Poncho Outdoors, Texas Beef Traders, and, of course, Specs, Wine, Spirit, and Finer Foods. Love you guys, man. God bless you. We'll see you here tomorrow for a big, big Thursday. Got some stuff for the war room that we got loaded up in our pockets. We're going to be able to break down for you tomorrow. That'll be hot off the presses. So make sure not to miss it. All right. God bless y'all, man. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.